Good morning. It's good to see you again. Welcome to the after show with Greg Belfrage. I don't like that name. I am going to implore you to please come up with a name for what we're doing here each morning. This is after the program, so I'm winding down a little bit. I'm enjoying a little bit of tea instead of I've had my daily shot of coffee, so I'm winding down. But we've just got to come up with a better name for this. So I'm going to put it to you. If you've got ideas for a name, please either comment on this video or drop me an email. My email is always open to you, greg.belfridge@kelo.com, and I would enjoy hearing from you. But welcome to the after show. It's great to have you along this Monday morning. Let's take a look at what's going on since the air show this morning. The president is laying out his Supreme Court reform is the big issue for him. He laid this out in an op-ed in the Washington Post this morning. So he unveiled it this morning in the op-ed, and his three-part proposal, he said, is designed to restore trust and accountability when it comes to the presidency and the U.S. Supreme Court. Do you not trust the U.S. Supreme Court? I mean, where's your level of trust as you look at the presidency and you look at Congress and you look at the judicial branch? Of those three, which is the one that's working pretty well right now? So the one that's working well seems to be the one then that the president wants to reform. Are we in need of reform? I welcome your thoughts. But the president says three main features of the plan. No one is above the law, a constitutional amendment to state a former president does not have immunity for crimes carried out in office. Also, another part of this, term limits for Supreme Court justices. How do you feel about that? I'm curious to know how you feel about that one. Term limits for Supreme Court justices. Also, a binding code of conduct for the High Court. So the likelihood of any of this, I think, catching fire is not good. I don't know, with the presidential race ongoing and the president now having bowed out and throwing taking the nod, bowing to Kamala Harris, she's it. I don't think the president's even going to, will this generate all that much news coverage? I'm curious to know that. And what will the reactions be? I think the Democrats are so heavily focused on Kamala right now that it'll be curious to see whether or not the president gets any traction at all with this plan. But he outlined that this morning in this op-ed in the Washington Post. Also, this is a big story at the Examiner this morning. Kamala Harris comes out in support of the president's Supreme Court reforms, she said. So President Biden and I strongly believe that the American people must have confidence in the Supreme Court. So apparently, when decisions go in a way that you don't like, suddenly your confidence is lost in the U.S. Supreme Court. That's what the vice president seems to be saying, that because the Supreme Court has come out with rulings with which the Biden administration, she and the president and the left are in disagreement, therefore then the U.S. Supreme Court is not working? The Supreme Court, unlike politicians, does not bow to political pressures. In other words, the mood of the day, right? The Supreme Court is supposed to uphold the law. They're supposed to look at law, and based on law, they are supposed to make rulings, not on the whims of the people. And that's why I think it's the judicial branch, which is overall, just speaking generally, overall, the one branch of government that's actually working versus what's going on with some of the other branches. So the idea that we need to reform the U.S. Supreme Court, again, I'm strictly opposed to it, but it will be interesting to see whether or not the president's claims even get, whether it kind of catches on. Be interesting to see. So also, while we talk about Kamala Harris, J.D. Vance, and I mentioned this story was trending earlier this morning. I want to share it in a little bit more detail because President Trump and J.D. Vance were in Minnesota yesterday, or over the weekend, Saturday, I think. They were speaking in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And J.D. Vance then questioned Kamala Harris and what, in particular, Kamala Harris has questioned the loyalty of J.D. Vance, whether J.D. Vance is loyal to America. And this did not sit well with J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, brought this up. And he said, I saw the other day Kamala Harris question my loyalty to this country. That's the word she used, loyalty. And it's an interesting word. He said, Semper Fi, loyalty, because there is no greater sign of disloyalty to this country than what Kamala Harris has done at our southern border. And I'd like to ask the vice president, what has she done to question my loyalty to this country? He said, I served in the United States Marine Corps. I went to Iraq for this country, he said. I built a business for this country. And my running mate, talking about Trump, took a bullet for this country. So my question to Kamala Harris is, what the hell have you done to question our loyalty to the United States of America? And he said, the answer, of course, is nothing. He said, let's send a message to the media. Let's send a message to Kamala Harris. Let's send a message to every hardworking patriot from Minnesota across the country. We are ready to have Donald J. Trump back, and we're going to work our tails off to make sure it happens. So I appreciate what J.D. Vance said. You know, what has she done to question the Vance's loyalty or Trump's loyalty to the country? What has she done? Her record of accomplishments is pretty thin. I mean, seriously. And there is a definite honeymoon period that's going on. And you see this. The libs of TikTok had a post this morning that the cover of New York Magazine, and on the cover of New York Magazine, welcome to Kamala. So it's Kamala, the beginning of her name. Welcome to Kamala. Kamala. Oh, give me a break. I think my head's going to explode when I see stuff like this. Elon Musk shared this within the last half hour. He said the legacy media NPC grovel fest. Yeah, here they are groveling at the feet of Kamala Harris. I think the question is, how long is that going to last? How long is that going to last? Is the media clearly groveling? Is this a honeymoon phase? Is it going to be a month? Are we going to see this begin to wear off? And we've got just under 100 days to the election. Will this continue for the next 90 days, for the next 3 months? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It'll be interesting. Just looking at some of the comments you guys are sharing, always good to hear from Steve and David, are regulars. Good to hear from you guys. And I agree with you, David. He's talking about these changes the president is proposing. It would require a constitutional amendment. Yeah, the chances of that occurring are not good, which is one of the reasons why I wonder, what's the reality of this then? How much is that actually going to, catch on fire, and is it going to become a thing? So again, here we've got the president who has just said, I'm not running for re-election, and now he's setting forth this agenda. Why should anybody care? I'm not sure that anyone does. Kamala is giving lip service to some of this, but why should anyone care? He had an opportunity. He's had 4 years to move forward on some of these things, and now that he's a lame duck, seriously, that's where he's at. What kind of capital does he have? What kind of political capital does Joe Biden have to expend on that? Not much, I don't think. Not much. I mean, he was at the mercy of his own party. They literally had to force him out to get him to actually quit the race. So it's a great point, David. Steve said he's in agreement with David here. If I'm remembering my Constitution correctly, it'd be a 2/3 majority of states to even be considered. Yeah, absolutely right. Steve said the size of her head on that picture is ludicrous. Is it ludicrous though? I don't know. Some of the egos in the political world right now, don't let me be one of them either. I mean, we talk about politics, don't consider myself in the political world. But I love doing what I do because of you guys, interacting with all of you. And again, I want to ask you for this after show, what's a better name for this? I would love to come up with some kind of a catchy name that would, as we draw more people in. So again, I really appreciate all of you because my numbers on YouTube, when we initially started, I had to get 50 people to be able to stream. So you had to get 50 people, and I made the plea on social media, please, we need at least 50 before YouTube would allow me to stream. Well, now we're just short of 150. So that number has grown in a pretty short period of time that I've been streaming. So I'm looking for a catchier, the Belfrage brief. Steal from Rush and call it the 4th hour, Steve says. So the 4th hour, that would be an idea. Although I'm not up to doing another hour. It takes a lot of audio, seriously. I think I mentioned this to you guys last week because when you're on the air, you have a certain adrenaline rush that's going on, and it starts prior to the program. And once the program ends, then kind of start to come down. So even by this time, it's I have a little bit of a resurgence, but the 4th hour, that's catchy. I like that. So I appreciate your ideas, and it's great to have you along. I'm going to cut it short at 15 minutes today. We're just about hitting the 15-minute mark here. And I want to thank you for being here, whether it's you're listening to the show, you're calling. Steve, I know you're a very regular caller. I always love hearing from you. Thanks to you guys. And again, I received that email from Community Blood Bank this morning. We had the blood drive, the Rise and Shine blood drive on Friday, and Blood Bank says, we had a lot of people who turned out and said they heard you talking about it. And they heard from you, please come out. And so I'm just so thankful to all of you. And then when we raise make the rallying cry to please go donate blood, the number of, folks do it and donate, and they want to give to the community. And that's what I see. So many folks who, this is a great part of the world anyway. I think South Dakota and the Midwest in general, you've got wonderful people. And some of the nonsense and lies of politics and all of that just becomes overwhelming for so many who they want to be able to live their lives in freedom. That's really, I think, that's what I see. folks that are tired of the nonsense, they're tired of the noise, and they just want to go about their life, and they want to, they're understanding of other people doing their things. They're just, that's freedom. They don't necessarily want it shoved down their throats. They just want to go about their own life. And by and large, that's what people do. So when we do that blood drive and trying to benefit the community and those who need blood, folks turning out in big numbers is always very much appreciated. So I want to thank all of those who said they heard it on the show and made a donation. They actually had about 74 people turn out, but they had a number, some folks for a number of reasons couldn't actually donate, but they made the effort to do it. And in my book, that's the blood banks certainly takes note of that, and so do I. So I want to thank you for letting me join you this morning. You take care. We'll do it again tomorrow. So long until then, my friend, and may God bless.